Listeners, welcome to For the Fans show. It's not Ben. This isn't Ben. This isn't Ben's voice, is it, Jack? It's me. It's Keno hosting today.
You've not picked up this show a lot. I was expecting, you were talking about the intro before we went live. I was expecting to see, extravagant hands flung around.
I thought about going big, but then the chances of me fucking that up were quite high. So I thought, okay, we'll keep it on an even keel. I'm joined, as you heard, by Jack and Christopher Proud. So the three of us are here, but we are without Ben today. He's not feeling very well. Get well soon, Ben. He'll be back with us shortly, but he's not
I
here
think
tonight.
He's just so angry about the Mane decision.
Yeah.
I always look forward to that as well. We were going to have a massive debate, and
over the weekend, Ben was bursting at the seams to get out his views on the red card, which I think would have angered a lot of people.
In hindsight, we should have got him to give us a recorded message to slot in.
Well, we still can do that, actually. Well, behind the curtain, I might message Ben and get him to do a little.
I feel like you've gone for an hour, though. It'll be another hour.
Well, if Ben starts talking now, we did it. If not, welcome to For the Fans' production value. We tried, okay?
We did. So, yeah, get well soon, Ben. And we've got a lot of views on that red card, and we're going to start with the Man City-Liverpool game. Obviously, City won 5-0 at the Etihad. We'll start with that. Jack, was it... We'll just get straight in there. I've got a Twitter poll ready, but we'll start with you. Was it a red card, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
A Liverpool fan say yes. Can I just say, I've never seen a decision polarise Twitter so much.
It was pretty contentious.
It was 50-50, and then it slowly swung as people kind of saw more angles and were like, he did kick him in the head, I guess.
Gary Lineker did a tweet which was similar, and he sort of followed his namesake Gary Neville on commentary, who kind of almost reflected the views of everyone, where initially he does what Gary Neville likes to do and sort of nailed his colours to the mast, and he was like, definitely not a red. And then as more replays sort of came through, as the screenshots of Mane the kicking Edison, karate kicking him in the neck came through, it was like slowly switched the other way.
Well, to be fair, even after half time, where they've been like, yeah, it was definitely a red card, Gary Neville's still not convinced. He's not being deterred. It's like Gary's kicked him in the head.
Proudy, I know you were kind of like me on this. We had a similar sort of view. What did you think about it?
I was one of those who said no, it was definitely not a red card. I said it was one of the worst decisions in the Premier League, and then as the angles came out, as Jack said, I changed my mind, and then I realised it was, because the thing is, when we were watching it in real time, when I saw his foot, I thought it was chest height, and then I thought his knee maybe had gone into Edison's face, so I was thinking, okay, that's not really a red. And then,
Edison wasn't that high in the air. His head was lowered somewhat. It wasn't down at knee height by any means. But I
know that Ben's trying to sort of summarise Ben's argument. You may have heard him in the voiceover, but I know one of the things that he did say was that Edison obviously had come out of the box and he was jumping to head it. It was a sort of unnatural position for the goalkeeper to be in. And he also said that one of the kind of things that is characteristic of Mane was that he does do that a lot, and he tends to bring the ball down quite frequently from that height. So one of the kind of arguments that I guess might be touted from people who didn't think it was a red card, as I'm watching these votes come in on Twitter, and I should say it's overwhelmingly in favour of Mane should have been sent off for the red card. About 300 people voted on that. But yeah, I feel like that was one of the arguments, that it was a bit of an unconventional position, and that Edison, in most other circumstances, would have his hands up and would be catching it, and it was his choice to be that far out the box.
I think it's interesting, because I think on the one hand, if you were to ask everyone, was it a red card, a lot of people would say yes, but I think if you were to ask the same people, would you have gone for it, a lot of other people would have said yes to that as well. It's one of those unfortunate instances, and it's a decision that I think the injury perhaps has swayed, because the issue is, by the letter of the law, it is a red card. He has endangered the opponent.
Intent or not, which is one thing that people misquoted that weekend, was that, mentioned intent and that kind of thing, and eyes on the ball. None of that has anything to do with it. So, it is about the actual the actions that occur.
But the thing with that, the whole thing is, it's one of those ones where by the letter of the law, it's a red. But if he doesn't make contact with Edison, it's not given as a red. The ref just lets it slide. Yeah. It's not the kind of thing where the ref wants to send off a player for that. And there was a very similar incident with Ritchie in the Newcastle game where he went in with a raised foot, didn't catch the man, and it was just a yellow. And those are very similar incidents. And I know I think it was on Match of the Day they were talking about it and saying, it's two different referees, how can you expect consistency? And I was a bit annoyed by that, because ultimately the referees are meant to consistently apply the law. The law is consistent even if the referees aren't. That's when people are asking for consistency from referees, it's to do with those kind of decisions. And yeah, as I say, the thing is, I'm annoyed Mane got sent off, and I'm championing the fact like, oh, it should have been a red. But by the same token, I would have been annoyed if Richie got sent off in the following game. It's just, it's one of those ones where I think Mane has to go, but I don't know if he should be suspended. And actually, speaking of that, we're recording this Monday night. Liverpool have appealed that, and it could be reduced to a 1-game ban.
That is one of the interesting things about it. And I know that was another thing that Ben was annoyed at, was that he misses 3 games, and it could be those kind of contentious incidents when it's a straight red card. There doesn't seem to be much wiggle room. It'll be interesting to see actually if that appeal is successful. Brady, do you want to jump in? I was
going to say, because like I'm going to say it from the goalkeeper's perspective, because it's basically on the point
the goalkeeper in the room.
The goalkeeper's perspective. Yeah, I was going to say it was on the point that I think if Ben had made it and you were just saying Mane had the right to go for the ball. But the thing is, like, to counter that, like, people are just assuming that Edison was just going to stay on his line. Like, he has to go for the ball as well. Like, you can't just stand there and then let Mane bring it down and then he's 1-on-1, because that's not what Pep Guardiola brought him in to do. He brought him in to sweep from the back, and Edison was doing his job, and Mane's obviously gone right in. And as Jack was mentioning, if Mane got to the ball first, then it's not going to be a red card, and it probably would have been a foul actually the other way. Like, Edison probably would have taken out Mane. So
there are a lot of what ifs with this game, because I think sort of moving on to the match a little bit. Obviously, I thought the game was really, really interesting up until that incident, and then from then on, the way that Man City play, it was just, once they had that man advantage, that is City probably more than any other team in the Premier League can exploit that the most. And I felt like it was a bit of a non-event after that red card, and City just did what they had to do. Although they were 1-0 up at the time. I think they were still.
They were already
1-0.
Yeah, but I feel like they really twisted the knife after that. Jack, what did you think of Liverpool's performance sort of prior, and I guess just the game in general? What did you think of the performance prior to the red card?
I thought the defending on the actual goal that was scored was very Liverpool. Just defenders not really talking to one another.
Big gaps,
of course,
wasn't there?
Well, it's worth talking about the fact that Klavan was brought into the side. Lovren, apparently very exhausted from international duty, was still on the bench. Did play a full 90 minutes on Tuesday, and I think Klopp said he was feeling it. I think that does kind of come back to the issue that Liverpool have in the centre-back position, because really Lovren, Matip, Klavan, and then Joe Gomez. Maybe Emre Can. I know Emre Can has played centre-back in his younger years.
Well, he moved in there in the second half as well, sort of between the back three.
Exactly. So there have been changes made there before, but I think that is a real issue for Liverpool. I know that Ben's quite a fan of Klavan. I think Klavan looks like a £4 or £5 million centre-back.
Well, you've waited till he's not here, Jack.
But I have said it before. Like, I'm not overly convinced by him as a backup, and I think part of that was just a little bit of an interruption, I guess, with the flow of the Liverpool defence, if there ever is a flow. I think it was one of those games where going into it, we were really expecting both teams to go for it. Neither team with the most convincing defence, of course, Company out for Man City. Salah squandered 1 or 2 chances, one that he definitely should have scored.
It looks like that was going to be the game that we were going to get. It was sort of, I thought that actually City started quite slow in the first sort of 25 minutes or so. The goal was pretty much against the run of play. It was a fantastic assist from Kevin De Bruyne, the awareness that he had to sort of just instinctively bring the ball down and straight away slide Aguero through, who always looks for those sort of runs between the centre-halves. I thought was really against the run of play. And so, but it was turning out to be a really interesting game. Friday, what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say, as you said, it was again the run of play, City's goal, and Liverpool were actually playing really well. I know they missed quite a few chances. I know Salah ran through, should have probably put it away. Yeah, he should have probably finished. And then I was surprised he even got subbed like at half time as well. Like he was taken off for Chamberlain, because he was their attacking threat, Salah, and then it pretty much. I can see what Klopp was trying to do, but at the same time, it's like, there was not really much to play for, but I think he still tried to get him back in the game. And then obviously they went from 2-0 to 5-0 pretty quickly. And it's not in Klopp's philosophy to shut up shop. I've known that. But the fact that he could have taken off Firmino, because I don't think Firmino was offering much that game. Mane and Salah were doing most of the running. Firmino wasn't really in it that much. And maybe taking him off, bringing Oxlade on, leaving Salah to play up front by himself, like just running in between the lines, maybe would have worked. But I mean, it's going to be a damaging defeat for Liverpool, especially that.
Yeah, that was what I was going to sort of finish this game on, Jack. I must say, by the way, City's performance was great. There's only one Liverpool fan on the cast tonight, so I'm trying to sort of not give that impression. But this in a weekend sort of fairly void of talking points. Obviously, we'll get to the Frank de Boer thing at the end of the show. We'll kind of bookend it with that. In a weekend that was quite devoid of talking points, this was the biggest one. Jack, what do you think? Obviously, a 5-0 loss, but there is the caveat that they were down to 10 men for the majority of the game. What do you think this does for Liverpool going forward, who had a pretty good start to the season, all things
I don't think it's going to impact the team too much. I think in some ways, actually, losing the game 5-0, but with Mane sent off, is almost going to be less of a mental blow than, say, losing 2-0 with 11 men. I think Liverpool, if you were going to say one of Liverpool's big weaknesses, it would actually be the fact that they very much struggle to adapt to a 10-man system, particularly with the way they like to play the press. As soon as you're void of that extra man, kind of in the final third, it's immediately a problem for you. I don't think it's going to affect Liverpool too much. I think it was always going to be a tricky game. Obviously, it was made impossible, many would argue, by the fact that there was the sending off. In some ways, as a fan, I feel like the way that we kind of just, I don't want to say we gave up, but we made it easy for Man City after the sending off. It was almost as if that was an excuse not to try.
It sounds bad, but I mean, Klopp can almost use this sort of internally with the players as a bit of a kind of a free hit and a sort of excuse, if you. I know that sounds kind of bad, but he can tell them, guys, don't let that, sort of disturb you at all. Before the man was sent off, we were on top. We were looking good. Let's not worry about that result. You can always kind of use that kind to almost motivate.
Can we have
players.
a minute's silence for the tens of thousands of hours which were wasted over the international break, with people contemplating who should replace Kevin De Bruyne in their fantasy football team? Because I'm sure there were lots of hours.
Instantly before that game. I was doing my fantasy. I left it late. I was doing my fantasy team about 5 minutes before the deadline. Aguero hadn't started last week for City before the break, and I was like, he might not sure he's going to do that well against Liverpool. Was my captain, took him out, scored within 20 minutes, and I was feeling a bit stupid. I still had De Bruyne in.
Well, he set a record now because he scored, I think, in the last 5 meetings against Liverpool at home.
Yeah,
like he's never not scored.
A couple of interesting actually records. I think he set the record for the highest number of goals in the Premier League from a non-European striker. So props to Aguero for that. I also saw a stat. You mentioned De Bruyne. This kind of gets trotted out quite a bit, but since last year, he's quite clear at the top of the amount of assists in the Premier League now. I think he's got over 20, maybe 21. With Eriksen being the closest, I think 16 or 17. So a lot of the things that I think, as we'll get to later in the show, a few of the predictions that might have been made have already sort of got a bit awry, but the ones that people are making about De Bruyne and his assists, and I think he's looking very good so far this year.
This result did hurt my predictions.
Yeah, we'll get on to some new predictions at the end as well. Right, let's move on because we've spent a little while on that, and we'll talk about a team that has sort of, Liverpool got kind of almost turned 180 degrees in their form with this loss, but Spurs had not been looking great, obviously struggling a little bit at Wembley, and they'd drawn with Burnley before the international break, but they get on a small pitch. I don't know if this is a coincidence. Well, it's two things. September comes around, Harry Kane starts scoring. They go to Goodison Park, which is quite similar to White Hart Lane in atmosphere and pitch size, and it's a 3-0 thrashing, really, of Everton, who I thought looked really poor, Proudy. What did you think of this game?
Yeah, I was going to say, as you just mentioned, that Everton was shocking this game. I watched
really
every goal that they conceded. It was poor marking. No one picked any of the players up, other than Harry Kane's first one, which I don't. He definitely didn't mean it. He said in his interview he didn't mean it. But the two after that, they were absolutely shocking, and it's amazing to see a team like that fold, especially when they've spent so much money on so many players. And I've been saying in the last few weeks, I think Everton, they've done the best business. And then I'm probably regretting it. Yeah, I'm probably regretting it already. I don't know, because I'm trying to think of the team. He had Klassen and Sigurdsson in the same team, and Rooney and Sandro, and they couldn't score a goal between them against a good Spurs side.
But not one that had been in form though.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know how he's trying to fit him in. Klassen was playing on the wing when I'm pretty sure he can play in the centre. He obviously has Rooney in there. He drops quite a few of the better players when they played City away, like Calvert-Lewin, who I thought was quite dangerous. He didn't start. This
is the interesting thing that, Jack, as we proudly sort of said there, we've spoken a lot about Everton's transfers over in these kind of first few weeks of the season and the preview shows, and like everyone, I think really we thought they'd done pretty good business. The one thing that does strike you about the signings they brought in sort of forward areas is that as Proudy just said, with no Calvert-Lewin playing, there's not a lot of pace in those positions. And I think definitely between Klassen, Sigurdsson and Rooney, they're all liking to play in that sort of the middle of almost the three behind the one in a front system. I know Sigurdsson's played out wide a little bit. Very similar players, and Sandro is the only really striker that they've brought in. Can you see that? Maybe it's a bit early, and because they brought so many players in, the system might change. But do you think the lack of striker, if Sandro doesn't fire, could be a problem for Everton this year?
Potentially. I mean, they have got other options. Obviously, Morelos has looked fairly threatening. You mentioned kind of a lack of pace. I think that's maybe going to be the issue for them. Obviously, they lost Deulofeu in the summer, who I think was an underappreciated part of their team.
He kind of spent last year out on loan, didn't he? But it was pretty good for Everton at the time.
And Lukaku's not exactly known for being fast, but he's a very good athlete. He's not slow. You think of big, cumbersome strikers. He's certainly not that. I do feel like their system, unlike, say, a system like Stoke, that Stoke have been using this year, doesn't rely quite so much on pace in the final third. I think it was always going to be an impossibility for Everton to expect them to really replace the goals that they lost with Lukaku.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I wonder if where their intention is to gain goals is in different areas. Obviously, Sigurdsson, a bit of a set-piece specialist.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
I feel like it's easy to get carried away with kind of one result at this point. I feel like these aren't the games that Everton need to win if they're going to come fifth in the or not fifth, like sixth or seventh in the league. Like they're going to just have to beat the teams around them, and we know how competitive the Premier League is. I think when they look at their start to the season, 4 points from 4 games is going to be disappointing. I guess the manner of this defeat's the biggest issue for them, really. It's the fact they've shipped 3 at home, because traditionally they've been fairly solid defensively in recent years at Goodison. And, I mean, they lost, obviously, to Chelsea in their previous game. I don't think this game's going to affect them that much. I feel like for Everton, it's kind of brush yourself off, and it's more so about how they react this result rather than the actual kind of performance itself.
I think the Harry Kane September-August thing is stupid, so I'm not really going to spend too much time on it. But another kind of stupid thing that's been mentioned about Spurs a lot is the Wembley hoodoo, the so-called Wembley curse. As I kind of mentioned at the top of this little segment about this game, I don't really think it was a coincidence that on the Goodison Park pitch, the way that Spurs play, maybe I don't have the exact sort of pitch sizes to hand, right? But it almost was a kind of an atmospheric thing that seemed to, with the small stadium that almost reminded them of White Hart Lane. I feel like it wasn't a coincidence that Spurs played so well. And while this was a good result for them, Proudy, do you kind of think that maybe this does highlight the issues that they'll face at Wembley? So, because obviously it was a very good result away from home, and a win at Goodison's a good result for any team in the league. But it might almost highlight the actual issues they have at Wembley a little bit more.
Yeah, I think what you have to sort of look at as well is the team that Pochettino's built, as you were saying, like they are so suited to a narrow pitch. So when they go to places like Goodison Park and when they play at White Hart Lane, they're amazing. And the thing is, he doesn't have a different system to play at Wembley when they're playing on a wider pitch.
Probably due to squad size as well.
Yeah, I suppose so. But we always we've talked about this so many times at Spurs on this podcast. They don't have a winger, and a winger would be so beneficial to them playing at Wembley.
Lamela's been left out of the Champions League squad, so you have to assume he's out till kind of Christmas time.
Yeah.
One thing that struck me about this game, was how a lot of criticism had been levelled at Spurs' fullbacks, the fact that they weren't Davis and Trippier weren't quite sort of Rose and Walker level. The thing that struck me watching this game was the amount of crosses that Spurs were putting in, mostly from those full-back areas. They really got forward pretty well that game. And once more, the kind of small pitch thing, I think, makes a difference here. Because at Wembley, while the full-backs maybe have a little bit more room to venture into on that kind of pitch, there's not quite the sort of intensity and accuracy of crossing that you can sort of see, or at least I sort of saw from Ben Davies in particular this weekend.
Can I just say on Ben Davies, having a fantasy football team had him on the bench, got 14 points.
The amount of people, did you see the person who had, was it Davis, Sane, I think it was Hemed, had them all on the bench and they got 39 points between them. I was thinking,
oh dear.
Oh no, and someone had them all on the bench. I was thinking, I didn't have any of those. I had Davis on the bench on mine as well, actually.
Quick mention of fantasy as well. We do have a fantasy league, which I think you could still join. It's for the fantasy. and the code is on our Twitter. So
can I just say, I didn't mention it last week. I was top.
Oh yes, update, Jack. Where are you now?
I'm down in 5th, but as we record this, Mounier is playing for Huddersfield.
Has he scored?
How many points are you off the top?
Let me check. This is serious. I know. 12. So I need 2 goals from him, please.
He needs a big night. I'm not sure that's happening.
I mean, he's playing West Ham. Anything's possible.
That's true.
Mind
we
you,
are recording.
the game is at half time.
We are recording. What's the score, Jack?
It's 0-0. So we've missed nothing.
Wait, hold on. I just want to check because I was checking the score throughout. I don't think Huddersfield had a shot yet. So
yeah, we are recording while this game's going on. Yeah. If anything interesting happens, I'll let you know. But so
live
far,
reporting,
Huddersfield not had a shot yet that half. So
he's going to bang in 2 in the second.
As uneventful as this podcast, maybe.
I mean, if you're watching this podcast as soon as it goes up, get the money on Mounier to score 2. It's going to happen.
I'm not sure we're allowed to do that, Jack. I don't.
Oh, the game will be over. I don't
condone gambling.
Yeah. Brighton. WBA. Hashtag WBA. Oh, are we going to do Man United first? Let's do Man United first, then we'll take a break and we'll do the lower half of the Premier League. Stoke seems to be a difficult place to go again, Jack. It's a bit odd. They beat Arsenal a few weeks ago. Man United go to town, hadn't conceded a goal all season, looked pretty imperious, and it was a sort of spluttering performance. I'm not sure how much that was Stoke and how much that was
I really like Stoke's team and how they played this game.
Well, we trashed them in the previews, didn't we? We were pretty harsh, and they've maybe surprised quite a few people this year.
They just have such a scary front three. They are scarily good. I hate to throw it out there.
They're the scarily good team.
I feel like with Shaqiri, Hesse and Choupo-Moting, you kind of have 3 players there who have always had a lot expected of them without ever really delivering the goods. And I'm not going to get too carried away here, but they really impressed me as a trio, like working together against a Man United side who, as you mentioned, just haven't conceded this year. Like the stats, they were very much in United's favour, as you'd expect. But Stoke was still very much capable of creating chances. You know, they had 5 shots on target, 10 shots in total. They looked just lethal on the break.
I did. You watched this one. Jack went back and watched the full, sort of the entire match after the game to sort of really get into dedication.
It's just an interesting game because of how much has been expected of United. I thought defensively, United looked a little bit weak.
Well, Eric Bailly didn't have a great game, did he?
No, I thought Jones, considering how well he'd started the season, was poor as well. But we do have to remember, United have had a relatively easy start to the season. And
it's true.
I feel like this game is, perhaps indicative of the fact it's not going to be all plain sailing for them. They have got a few more easy games. I guess Everton at home. It's not going to be easy for Everton, is it? After they've just been drubbed 3-0 and lost to Chelsea the week before to now go to Old Trafford.
I have, with that game in mind, we might do a little prediction at the end, but I feel like Everton might roll over for that. They are not traditionally good against the big teams.
I think the big thing's actually be after the October international break for United, they come back and play Liverpool, Spurs and Chelsea in 3 of their first 4 games. I feel like that's really going to set the tone for their season. I feel like at this point it's a bit too easy to get carried away with United and say they look really good. I think off the back of those games, if they're still top, if they've still only, maybe drawn or 1 or 2 of those games and avoided a defeat, suddenly you're looking at them as title favourites. But
Proudy, what do you think about Stoke squad? Because as Jack mentioned, that front 3 of Choupo-Moting, who I didn't really know a huge amount about, I must say, before he came to the Premier League, but obviously knew a bit. We know about Shaqiri and Hesse is a pretty known talent. That front 3 is the kind of front 3 that maybe 3 or 4 years ago you might have seen in sort of the Europa League or the Champions League, like from a lesser ranked group team. Do you know what I mean? That wouldn't have been out of this world to see a Hesse and Shaqiri either side of your front 3. Do you think there's a little bit more potential in Stoke than I think we gave them credit for?
Yeah, I think it's just I think it's Mark Hughes just changing the style gradually. Stoke have always been, I think even now people just assume Stoke are a long ball team. They play to their strengths, which is you get to the fullbacks and lump it about 80 yards up to the...
He's been there for a while, though.
This is their plan B, though. Like we say, they're not hoofball anymore. If they're 0-0...
Send on Peter Crouch, send on Charlie Adam.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, they have a lot of attacking options, which is definitely beneficial to them. It's just whether they can actually challenge because Stoke are just that team that seem to be happy finishing mid-table every year, and I don't know if that's worth it anymore. I suppose the money's good still to finish mid-table, but you don't want to be finishing mid-table every year. There's no end goal, is there, for Mark Hughes?
I think one of the themes that we sort of in the preview with these kind of almost like 6 or 7, 8 teams in the middle of the Premier League. Yeah, what do they have to play for? I felt like when we were talking about Stoke and trying to rank them in those mid-table teams, I think we'd have had them a little bit further down. Like it's sort of instead of the top half of that group, maybe the ones sort of upper of the lower half of the table. Maybe because the last couple of years, I know Hughes had, I think took them to their record finish a couple of years ago. Last year they were pretty underwhelming, but. Another thing that impressed me about this game was their back three. Did he start with the back three?
Yeah, it was Wimmer, Zuma, and Jeff Cameron.
Exactly. They sort of play Cameron in the centre of that three. You'd probably say that he's the least gifted of those three defenders. Very physical and a good athlete. And they sort of had him in the middle of that back three. And Kurt Zuma and Wimmer, obviously two players that they've plucked from the top six in Spurs and Chelsea. I think that people talk about spines a lot and sort of... I feel sometimes it's kind of a bit of an overhyped concept and it's a bit of a myth. But Spurs, obviously with Jack Butland in goal, who I think
Stoke, not Spurs.
Sorry, yeah.
You got your Stoke and Spurs muddled up. It's okay. It's Monday. It's the start of a long week.
I've not even been to work, Jack, but I'm still making those notes. Yeah, Stoke with obviously Butland in goal and that back three, if he chooses to play a back three for the foreseeable future, and then the front three who we've mentioned, they're strong at the front and the back of the pitch there. And I feel like in this league, particularly against teams around them, they might not need to dominate possession with midfielders in the way that other teams need to, maybe higher up to sort of have that sustained pressure. The Darren Fletcher signing looks quite sensible in that regard, and I feel like they're building
Joe Allen as well. I feel like Joe Allen's a very good player to build around as a midfielder.
Yeah,
I know it's a bit of a meme that he's like Perlo in disguise, but like no, he is actually quite a good footballer, and I think he suits this team to a T actually very well. Compared to Stoke's centre midfield pairings of past.
Yeah, I feel like, as you say, it's early on. We've just come back from the international break. It could have been an off day from United and they could go on to wallop teams for the next couple of months and we could look a bit silly. But Stoke with that win against Arsenal as well, maybe there's something there this year. I think they might be one to watch.
I know it sounds like we're jumping on the Stoke hype train here, but when you consider their opening games of the season were Everton, Arsenal, West Brom and United, the fact that they've got 5 points from those games in total is like a really impressive haul, all things considering. They've got a tricky game on the horizon with Chelsea, but you look at the other games, they've got Newcastle, Southampton at home. Southampton not looking that great so far, really. They have then got City away. I'll tell you what, I feel bad for Stoke looking through their fixtures because they could be a team who are kind of lingering in mid-table after 10 games, but they've played all the hard teams.
A lot of attention on Stoke this week.
I'm bigging up Stoke. They are the new scarily good team because they have a good chairman.
That's true. It was Crystal Palace, who we'll talk about later, but
they're scarily bad.
Jack has given the scarily good tag in 2017-18 to Stoke.
I mean, is there a rosé that we like present them with at this point? It feels like
I'm sure Mark Hughes would like one of those. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with the rest of the Premier League, viewer questions, listener questions as well, and a bit more on the Champions League.
Hello folks, hopefully you are enjoying the podcast. Of course, we are available on iTunes. If you watch this on YouTube, the podcast go up on iTunes first. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you leave a rating. There's a chance it'll be read out at the end of the show. And don't go anywhere.
We are going to do a quick sort of... Praddy and I are considered the lower league correspondents in this podcast, I think it's fair to say. So we're going to do a little quick sort of lower half of the Premier League roundup because, we're used to dealing with losses and that sort of thing. Praddy, you wanted to talk about Southampton and Watford. Southampton have failed to score in, is it 4 out of the 5 games this season?
Once again.
So they're not looking great. They obviously lost 2-0 to Watford at home as well. Watford continuing their good start to the year. What are your thoughts on Southampton, Praddy?
I mean, as much as it delights me every week.
Yeah, let's try. I should preface by saying, try and keep the bias out of it a little bit. And we'll, obviously, Praddy's a Portsmouth fan, if you don't know.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, as much as I'd love to, gloat about, Southampton losing once again in the Premier League, I do follow a lot of Southampton fans on Twitter, and I have a few Southampton friends, Southampton supporting friends, and they say that the football just seems to be getting worse. And under Puel last year, they said it was really boring, but he got the results. They said this year it's boring, but they're losing, so it's just suddenly got worse. And I think you look at it and you're thinking, like, some of the games they should be winning. Well, they beat West Ham at home 3-2, but they had the aid of being, playing against 10 men.
They're playing West Ham.
They're playing West Ham as well, yeah, who are bottom of the league. They played Swansea, who struggled last year, and they drew them 0-0. Drew Huddersfield, a newly promoted side, 0-0 away. Have lost to Watford at home 2-0. They've gone out of the Cup, the EFL Cup, to Wolves at home 2-0.
Yeah.
So it does look like they could struggle. I didn't have them down as a team who would struggle this year. I think I said probably about 12th or 11th. I probably would predict them to finish. But, they've got some massive games coming up. They've got Palace away, which is their next game. Then Manchester United at home, Stoke away, Newcastle at home. That's already looking like 4 massive games this season, especially with the teams that are going to be around them in the league. On the other side, I did have Watford to be overachieving, and I'm not surprised by their start to the season.
I'm not surprised either because of just how good Marco Silva I think will prove to be. I don't think it's any coincidence that he's got in there and he's achieving really good results with that squad.
Yeah, that team is a lot better than it was last year. Richarlison is absolutely superb.
Looks an interesting signing, that is. It was like, how much did they pay for him? I don't think it was a huge amount, and a kind of a world where young Brazilians seem to go for a huge amount of money, particularly even if you're signing them from Brazil. It seems like quite a savvy signing. I respect the scouting done by Watford on Richarlison. I'm not sure. Without speaking for a huge amount of other teams, I don't know how many would have had him on their shopping list this summer as well. So it looks a really good bit of business. Jack, I haven't come to you for that game because you didn't see it. I have been itching to talk about #WBA, which of course
I wanted to talk about Charlie Austin, but it's fine. We'll cross over.
Did he? Well,
he didn't even play.
He came on off the bench. Why is he not starting? Pellegrino out, etc.
Maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's the reason why. Like maybe that's why Southampton are not doing as well.
It is.
I got sucked in there to talking about Austin.
We did it.
I'm going to resist. #WBA. We said we had to wait for a loss, and it has exploded with angry West Brom fans. Of course, they lost 3-1 away at Brighton. Brighton's first couple of free goals and win, obviously, of the season. Pascal Gross looking really good for them with 2 goals. Did he get an assist as well? Yeah, I think he had a hand in all 3 goals. He assisted Hemed for the 3rd. A few other interesting things from this game before we get to the Twitter hashtag.
Can I just say, I've seen a great stat on #WBA.
Oh, yeah?
It's the fact that the Albion, they recorded over 50% possession at the weekend for only the 10th time in Pulis's 98 Premier League games in charge.
You know what? Fuck it. We'll just go for it. Right, just quick. We'll do a little.
Go through them all. They're great.
Pulis should have been sacked here and now for this alone. #WBA. Shame we couldn't buy passion and energy in the transfer window. Last 10 minutes is how we should have played for the previous 80. #WBA. That balloon of positivity is well and truly burst after today. From Ryan Barron. Funny that Pulis says we haven't had time to gel, and Burke and Gibbs were the best players on the pitch. Clueless dinosaur. Any other? Oh yeah, Pulis lost this game. A right back at left back, a centre half at right back, a striker on the wing, 3 holding midfielders away at Brighton. 61 retweets that got. They are all very angry straight away after this game. Interestingly about Ollie Burke, who obviously they signed in the summer, he set the record. I think he was second in top speeds in the Premier League this year in his first game. That was quite interesting. Proud of you. Have you got any #WBAs you like or anything like that?
I haven't really been looking at the hashtag because
Jack.
Jack. I got any personal favourites? I mean, it's just generally not very positive, which it
never is.
I don't want to enjoy fans being like angry, but I imagine #LFC was pretty bad for the weekend.
Yeah, but you see, there's too many. Obviously, I think there are more Liverpool fans on Twitter than West Bromwich Albion fans, and so #LFC is simply too much to get your head around on Twitter. But that was all we wanted to talk about for this little bit. Well done to Brighton, who got their 3 goals.
I mean, I don't know if this guy's used #WBA. He has 4 followers and 0. He's following 0 people. I don't know if this is a troll tweet or not. Been having a think today and think the Blues will go up and the Albion could be in Europe. I hope so, lol. #BCFC, #WBA.
I hope that's his first tweet. That'd be great. Is it just an egg?
He's got 56 tweets.
Do you want to shout him out?
#CrossOTV 2011.
CrossOTV 2011. You've got a shout out.
I'm going to follow him. Just Oh, he's sick follower.
He didn't get the hashtag WBA memo this week. My favourite one, maybe, is just to round off the weekly section of hashtag WBA. If Pulis did eventually leave, who would take Big Sam? Hashtag WBA. That'd be fun.
Well, Hodgson's not an option, is he, anymore? So
he's not. And Jack, that was a fantastic segue. I mean, Ben's not here, but everyone chips in. We'll get on to the matches that occurred on Sunday. It wasn't a very super Sunday for quite a few different reasons. Swansea lost 1-0 to Newcastle at the Liberty Stadium in quite a dull game where Jamal Lascelles scored.
I really like Lascelles. Like, obviously,
he's good.
He played at Forest for a number of years, and obviously still fairly young English centre back, captaining Newcastle. Part of me wonders if he might have a chance at an England spot ahead of Shawcross.
Yeah, we just mentioned Brighton. I'm glad you mentioned the random England predictions that we did. My Glenn Murray one isn't looking that good. And
was it looking good to me? Maybe it's looking better now.
Well, not after the goals that other members of the team have scored. I feel like if they weren't doing very well, maybe Chris Heaton would turn to Glenn Murray as a last resort. But it doesn't look like he's getting a look in. It's interesting that you mentioned Lascelles. Actually, we'll talk about this game a little bit because I remember in the year that Newcastle went down, I think they'd signed him in that January. I'm sure I'll get a load of tweets from Newcastle fans that say it was the summer, but they'd signed him in that year that they went down, and in a team that was pretty much devoid of any leadership or anyone that was willing to sort of stand up and, pardon the pun, sort of be counted. He did quite a lot of interviews and stuff where he was really talking, and I know that he was sort of, it was obviously only in interviews and they weren't playing very well, but the way that he was talking as they were going down about the kind of the effort that was almost required from the players was quite interesting. He's obviously quite a key figure in that dressing room already at such a young age, and Benitez, I think he was captain for them last year as well, captained them up from the Championship. He could be one to watch maybe for, as you say, possibly an England call-up, maybe if he carries on the form, a sort of similar move to maybe someone like Michael Keane up the league if Newcastle stay there. Also on the Sunday, the one of the most important matches this weekend, even though it wasn't a classic, Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Proudy, Frank.
You said it again.
I did it. Yeah, Frank de Boer is no longer manager of Crystal Palace. The sack race has been won by the Dutchman.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Well, I think that there's a lot of, well, no, I think it is surprising, especially when Parrish tweeted yesterday that, we have to get behind the team, we'll go again next week, and then he sacks him like 12 hours later, and it's just the fact that I've mentioned this as well. I think it was the first game of the season when they lost to Huddersfield, or it might have been the second one where they lost to Swansea, and I said he was trying to change too much too soon. I said you had a team that have played under managers like Pulis, Allardyce, Pardew. They sort of play a similar way, which is, Benteke is the forefront of the team. They play the balls to him. Everyone plays off him. And then you bring in De Boer, who's trying to play three at the back, trying to play possession football with a target man and a load of players who are so used to playing direct football. And it doesn't work like overnight. And you mentioned as well, it's a 6-month job to get these players to play in that new system. And
that's why I ask if it's a surprise, because,
I think it's
a
really
surprise
harsh.
how long it took. Yeah, it's a surprise how long it took. Like, I thought maybe give him 3 or 4 more games, but the fact they did it after 4 games,
they have got some tricky games coming up against the big boys. I think the thing that's frustrating for me is the fact that he's had so little time. And actually, he was experimenting. He played 4 at the back against Burnley, and they dominate the game. And then, like, you look at the stats of this game: 35% of possession for Burnley. They had 4 shots, Burnley, to Palace's 23. Granted, Palace only had 4 on target. When you look at those stats on their own for Burnley at home, you assume that is one of the top 4 or 5 teams going there and absolutely hammering them. And the reality is that Palace absolutely dominated this game, and one single mistake was the difference. Scott Dan had a great chance with the header. Yeah, and I guess the frustration for me here is the fact that a manager's been sacked off the back of a result that really couldn't be helped. And I feel like if this result has played any way into the decision to sack him, I don't understand why he didn't sack him after 3 games, to be honest. And I feel like the fact that Hodgson was being linked with the job on Sunday night makes it, it seems like this has been on the cards for a while, and the media have known it, because there was a lot of talk even after the first 3 games that he was going to be sacked. And in some ways, I feel like going into this game, it was kind of just a case of he was going to be sacked if they lost, and regardless of kind of the context of the result. I think the thing that really annoys me is actually the fact that Parish came out, the Palace kind of... What is he? Is he the chairman, technically?
I think he's the chairman, yeah.
But he came out and basically said, we've bought this many players since January. De Boer's been there since the summer. He's only brought in like 2 or 3 players, I believe.
I have to admit, it
genuinely annoys me.
I generally in the Premier League, I think it's a pretty brutal meritocracy, and if you do well, take someone like Marco Silva so far. If you get the results, you keep your job and you move up the food chain. Look at Mauricio Pochettino, or Ronald Koeman for that matter. And most of the time, if a manager gets sacked, I tend to feel like they deserved it, or there's a good reason behind it. With this one, and this was one of the reasons why, my De Boer thing, when we were talking about the sack race a few weeks ago, it's already gone wrong, because one of the reasons that I thought De Boer would get time was because, as you say, Proudy, turning around this cycle that Palace have had for 3 or 4 years now of under Pardew and then kind of almost Warnock before Pardew, obviously, and then Pulis and then Allardyce, this kind of cycle of trying to play better football, making attacking and signings that are trying to also do that, improve the quality of the play, and then reverting to kind of the safe bet. They've been in that cycle for a while now, and I respected them for going after Frank de Boer to try and correct that and to try and maybe play a little bit more progressive in terms of the style of football, move themselves up the league that way instead of maybe doing what maybe a Burnley or someone like that has done. I respected them for the appointment.
I think the thing that annoys me is the fact they've just given him no time. What is the... know that he's going to come in and be like, yeah, this is how I want the team to play.
Yeah,
you've not backed him with money. You've not backed him by giving him time. The reality is that Palace's next 2 games, they have got, let me check here, they've got Southampton at home and Huddersfield at home. They are probably 2 of the easiest games they've had to start the season, realistically
speaking. This is my
speaking.
point. The Palace owners knew upon appointing him that it would take a while. This was not a job that would be...
It's like they've got scared.
He wasn't, yeah, but to get scared so early in the season and almost to be pressured by the media and by the fans and the booing at home and that kind of thing, to be pressured and to be that sort of cowardly almost so early into the season just makes me despair a little bit for the Premier League. As I say, it's not often I get like this over sackings of managers, but Roy Hodgson hasn't been confirmed yet. He looks to be the overwhelming favourite to take this job. And that sort of signing for Palace, in terms of, if they appointed him, would just seem like, if I was a Palace fan, and I've been in this situation as a Villa fan where you try and you try and bring in a manager that's going to improve your style of play, the results don't initially go the way that they should be, then you sack them, and then you're back to square one again. I would be incredibly pissed off as a Crystal Palace fan right now, because if they do appoint Hodgson, who is renowned for a pretty conservative style of management, who will probably make very good use of players that they've had who have played well for them in this sort of quite subtractive, regressive style that we've seen from Allardyce and Pulis in the past. He'll sort of follow on from that, maybe a little bit more possession-based, but not hugely. You're just back to square one. And the Palace owners have to ask themselves, where do they see the club going? And we talk about this glass ceiling in the Premier League so much. One of the ways that you can make the fans happier and to give a sense of progression, if you know that you can't compete with the top 6 or 7 in terms of their funds, is by playing nice football and at least giving the fans something to go and enjoy each week. And by, I think, sacking De Boer so early, not giving him any confidence, not showing any confidence in him even, you just almost say it's an admission that the money of the Premier League, even at this early stage, is the only thing that matters to Palace. And it's just a bit, as I say, it's a bit disheartening without the Premier League, really. Proudy, do you want to...
I was going to say, I saw, I know you were saying they released, or Crystal Palace released a load of reasons. They said why they got rid of De Boer, which is a first, I think, I never saw
the statement.
Yeah, I rarely see this. And apparently he had like poor feedback on planning methods and sessions. The players couldn't adapt to the system he was trying to implement, which I think it's part like the manager's fault, because if he can tell that the squad can't, play the style of play, he has to adapt the style of play to his players, I suppose, part of it is down to De Boer. The players as well, like they have to then, what with this new system, it will gradually take time, as you said, 6 months. But then there's other things like his relationship with certain players, and one of them is one of his new signings as well, which I'm a bit confused about, because it's like he brought this guy in, Jairo Rilderwald from Ajax, and apparently he's not getting on with him. I was thinking, well, I don't know what, normally when a manager brings a player in, he knows he's going to do well, but you can't just fall out with him 4 weeks into the job. And
that was interesting, because I was listening to someone talk about, I can't remember who it was, talk about that very signing and that situation. Riedewald had played, I think, obviously he's a centre-back, and he's been playing at centre-back for Palace, but I think at Ajax he had sort of been played also in defensive midfield, and I think he had come to Palace telling De Boer that he wanted to play in that position, and De Boer then went and played him in the middle of the back three. So there are obviously issues there, and it's interesting that Palace have put that statement out. But I think the fact that they are doing that and trying to give these reasons almost demonstrates in a way that they were kind of not. They knew that this reaction would be there to the decision, and they almost felt like they had to justify it. Whereas most of the time, the reasons, or the kind of the thinking behind the sacking speaks for itself. Clubs very rarely do that. Jack, anything you want to wrap up on this? Because as you say, it was a pretty dull game.
I just feel like when you look at Palace's sacking record, it doesn't necessarily come as a surprise. I think they're now looking for their 7th full-time manager in 6 years. I do wonder at what point Parish's kind of decision-making comes into question, because as much as the board can kind of say, we've made this decision for these reasons, you appointed the guy just over 2 months ago. He is the shortest kind of manager tenure, I think this is, in the Premier League's history.
Bob Bradley might have to might be raising his
hand.
I
think Bob Bradley had a little bit longer, actually.
Quietly
I think he had 7 games. I think, it might be 9. Yeah, I think the Boers had the shortest.
But also, they didn't score a goal. So I'm being hypercritical here, but they didn't score a goal. And I understand why the board got panicked. I just feel like it's a very reactionary decision. And they've gone from scarily good to scarily bad, Palace, in a week. So there you go.
I think that is quite an apt way to end it. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be back with, obviously there's Champions League football coming this week, so with Predictor we are going to preview those and we'll also do some listener questions, so stay around.
Hello folks, hopefully you are enjoying the podcast. Of course, we are available on iTunes. If you watch this on YouTube, the podcast go up on iTunes first. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you leave a rating. There's a chance it'll be read out at the end of the show, and don't go anywhere. Okay, folks, so we are back. Thank you to whoever left. Was it me or Ben? I don't know, but one of us would have told you.
It might have been you then. Well, I've got Jack to do the intro here.
Thank you, Jack. But no, we're back for the special segment of the show. It's the Predictor section, where we give you our predictions on the football coming ahead. So, of course, this is brought to you with Predictor. Do you want to tell us all about Predictor, Callum?
Well, no, I don't. But I was going to say they normally deal with the Premier League, but we are going to start with the Champions League games in the week. Obviously, it's a full round of Champions League fixtures with 5 British teams. Well, 6 if you include Celtic. And so lots of matches for us to get our teeth into. And then we will deal with the Premier League next weekend, which is obviously what you go to Predictor to predict.
Of course, if you don't know what Predictor is, you go there, you leave some predictions, you give us your scores. There's a link at the top of our Twitter. It's a pinned tweet. Or if you're watching on YouTube right now, it's just down in the description for you. Go and give it a click. Go give it a prediction. It's free to sign up for, I think, for a few more weeks yet. There are prizes to be won.
End of September. You can still sign up.
Get on it if you've not done it. What are you doing? Why are you still... Well, no, stay around. Don't leave here as well. But should we get into some predictions? Champions League to kick things off.
Yeah.
We'll go through the English teams. I feel like that's the way to go. I'm going to be honest. I'm looking at the team that Chelsea are going to play. Never heard of them.
FC Karabakh. I thought it was with a K, and it's with a Q. Where are they from?
Azerbaijan, founded in 1951. Of course, well known for their manager, Gurban Gurbanov. That is literally his name. Gurban Gurbanov. So, I'm looking forward to see him in action. Much fabled.
We'll do this in sort of chronological and alphabetical order. So, do you want to do the Celtic? Do you feel like we owe it to our Scottish listeners to predict Celtic Paris Saint-Germain?
Let's do it.
What do you think will happen in that game, Jack?
Celtic are going to get dicked.
Difficult place to go, though, Parkhead is, but,
4-0.
Do you think that'll make a difference?
4-0.
I'm sorry. I'm going to be the bad guy, so now one of you guys has to go Celtic are going to win.
I feel as though it will be a narrow Well, no, it won't be a no. It'll be a 2-0 victory for PSG. They'll say lots of nice things about the atmosphere. The atmosphere will be great. Celtic will have about a 10-minute period, 15-minute period where they look on top and they're hustling PSG and the fans go crazy and the atmosphere is great. And then, nothing will happen and Neymar will score 2 and they'll win 2-0.
Oh, you're a buzzkill.
Thinks on this game. We did just miss you. Oh, Proudy, do you think anything different about this game?
No,
do you think Celtic will win?
I was going to say 3-0 PSG.
Yeah, so
Celtic win now, we look like tossers.
Well, our predictions generally make us look like tossers.
It's true.
To be fair, I'm thinking of one man in particular.
Anyway, Ben's not here. Let's not bring him into this.
I missed out Group A. I'm sorry. I went from Group B. Manchester United are playing Basel. Do you want to talk about this one a little bit more? What do you think will happen in this? I feel like it's on paper a pretty straightforward win for United, although they looked a bit suspect against Stoke. So, Jack, what are your thoughts on this game?
It should be straightforward. Obviously, United, they're going to be looking to bounce back while having missed out on Champions League football last year. I think the big tale actually here is how much Mourinho changes the side. Of course, Lindelof not been featuring in Premier League football. He's kind of come out and said the reason for that being is the fact he wants to play him in Europe. He thinks he's more suited to the European football, and it's going to take him a while to kind of get up to speed with the Premier League, which I don't know how much I buy, but obviously...
Yeah, interestingly, you say that Phil Jones and Bailly will miss this game because of suspension, so Smalling and Lindelof will have to start. He's got no choice on that. They're without Fellaini, big miss, who has got a calf injury, I think, and De Gea, Mourinho's confirmed, will start in goal, which is interesting. So it looks as though they're going to have a strong team. With that in mind, Proudy, what do you foresee of this game?
I mean, United are just going to walk all over Basel, I think. And I think what I was going to mention is I feel like Man United get the same teams in the Champions League group stage. Like, I'm pretty sure they've drawn Basel, Benfica and CSK Moscow before in the group stage, and they were second seeds. So I was thinking, Man United might get a big team like Bayern Munich here, and the biggest team they got was Benfica. And I was thinking,
UEFA have a way of making that happen.
Yeah, I'd always.
I saw a really interesting stat, and it's to do with the net spend of all the teams in the Champions League. And all the teams have spent money for the most part, except Benfica and Porto, who have made like hundreds of millions of pounds in profit over the last 5 years.
Well, that's their business model, isn't it? These Portuguese teams, they bring in.
I feel like Pauli's underplayed Benfica there. I think Benfica could.
Yes, I agree. Actually, I was going to say that.
We'll see. But I'm trying to think. I mean, they lost the whole city in pre-season, so that's they lost at home 1-0. So I mean, Man United.
Are you?
Yeah, exactly. Man United 4-0. No, against Basel. So
Group C is an interesting one, actually. We've mentioned the well-known FC Karabag against Chelsea. I think that'll be a straightforward win. Roma, Atletico Madrid are the other two in this group. I think this is another straightforward win, boys. Yeah, at Stamford Bridge.
2-0
against.
I don't know. I think Gerbanov's going to have some surprises up his sleeve. He sounds like a magician. So no, I expect big things.
3-0, 4-0,
6-0.
Okay, Jack always has to go bigger. Group D on that night is also quite interesting. We won't predict it, but just another couple. Barcelona are playing Juventus at the Camp Nou. That will be fun.
Yeah,
I think I will be watching that game instead of while the draw of Chelsea FC Karabag is high. I will just about, I think, on balance, go for watching that game. What is more? I feel like the more interesting games actually on the Tuesday night,
Wednesday night.
Oh, sorry, the Wednesday night. Liverpool are at home to Sevilla, Jack. Now, we've not mentioned Liverpool for a good 45 minutes. So what are your thoughts on this game?
Obviously, Sevilla, familiar foe in Europe. I want some revenge at home. I think Liverpool were very, very fortunate with their Champions League draw. I feel like this game is not the one that's going to make or break whether or not they get out this group, but still at home. I expect a good result from Liverpool here. I think it's going to be a bit of a test, actually, for this squad. You know, can they keep up with Champions League football? I know we featured in it a few years ago now, but really it's a very different kind of proposition this time around. I'm just excited to actually be watching a game on a Wednesday and not a Thursday. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, I feel like this will be a good test, actually, like an early test of, as you say, Liverpool's squad depth and their ability to sort of play. I know they played on the Saturday, to play on the weekend, then to play the Champions League against a good side in Sevilla. Maybe not quite as good as they were a couple of years ago when you played them in the Europa League final, I would argue, but still a formidable opponent. And then obviously they have to go and play at the weekend, so this will be an interesting one. I think they will nick it. I think there'll be goals, as there always is with Liverpool, at both ends. But I think maybe a 2 or 3-1 victory for Liverpool. Proudy?
I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, I think. Yeah, I think Liverpool will get an early goal, but they won't get another, and then Sevilla will score in the second half. So
that's kind of my thinking as well.
I think you're severely underestimating Liverpool. Sorry, that was terrible.
It took me a second to get that. Oh, well done.
Oh dear.
Let's fire ignored that last pun and move straight into City v Feyenoord.
These are getting worse.
They're getting worse. I dread to think what we'll find in Group G and H. Final Man City is quite an interesting one actually for me because Man City, while I almost think they're more suited for the Champions League than they are the Premier League, and I think they've got the best chance of going far in this tournament. I think Feyenoord's a bit of a banana skin, particularly away from home. The atmosphere is excellent there. The home fans. They tend to be a bit naughty, the Feyenoord fans. Maybe I'm being a bit.
You're thinking of that one Google stock image of like the little kid swearing with his middle finger as a Feyenoord.
Oh, was that
Feyenoord? That's what you're thinking of. It's okay.
No, I'm not. But yeah, I think this could be a tough game for City. So that'll be interesting to watch. And I can maybe just see them coming away with a draw here. I think that wouldn't be a bad result. I think them and Napoli are going to be really fighting it out for top spot in this group. And maybe that point might be costly. We'll have to see when Feyenoord return. But I'm saying 1-1 this game. Jack?
4-1 City.
4-1
City.
I'm going to say 2-0 because they got Brad Jones in goal. So and El Amadi's playing in midfield. So he plays. He's played all the games this year for Feyenoord.
I feel like he'll be man of the match and play fantastically for Feyenoord. Of course, he was great at the Villa. El Amadi, really, really good. We relegated on his watch. Anything else? Oh, yes, big game at Wembley that night as well, which I think is the pick of the bunch for me. Tottenham Hotspur against Borussia Dortmund. Who knows what might happen in this game with the Wembley curse? Jack, what do you think? It's a weakened Dortmund team. Obviously, they've lost Ousmane Dembele.
I'm a little bit annoyed that this is on at the same time as Liverpool, if I'm honest, because I feel like both these games are going to be good to watch.
You'll have to get a split screen thing going.
I think it's going to be interesting to watch. I feel like this is the kind of result where if Tottenham could get a really convincing, 2 or 3 goal win, suddenly the curse of Wembley is no more. If they lose
we said that about Burnley though, Jack.
We did, but this is such a big, it's a bigger stage, it's a bigger occasion. Let's be honest, this is a game that Tottenham would not have expected to have been playing in the group stage. They got a pretty harsh group with Dortmund and Real Madrid. Yeah. But fundamentally, at home against Dortmund, if you're going to pin Real Madrid as that top dog in the group, which I think you have to, Spurs need to win this game at home. It seems ridiculous to say this is a must-win game to open up the group stage, but it really could set the tone for their European campaign this year.
It's a bit of a glamour tie. I think, as you say, they could emphatically put the curse to bed. And I kind of want to be a little bit confident and think that they will. I'd like to see Spurs win this, and I think they might just do it, possibly in a narrow fashion, maybe 1-0 or 2-0 or 2-1. I'm going to say 1-0 to Spurs at Wembley. And it'll be a bit of a nervy night, but I think now Harry Kane is out of his now he's into September, he can feel the August breeze. He'll be the man for them on Wednesday night. Proudy, score?
Dortmund 2-1, I think. They've made a great start to the season. I know they've missed Dembele, but they haven't conceded in the league yet. Although they are missing quite a few players. They're missing Schürrle and Royce, so that could play, but they've still got Aubameyang. So Aubameyang's still there, so I think he'll score both the goals on the night.
I think Spurs have got a real chance of winning this game.
Oh no. Bring back Ben. Bring him back.
I should we think Madrid are going to beat Apple? Should we round things up with a Premier League set of predictions?
Ben, if you're hearing this, please come back. Please come back.
I'm on fire. Right. That's one word for it.
Premier League, right? We've got Premier League.
I'm stoked to go through these. Right,
I'll last through them. I'm just totally ignoring them. I'll last through them really quickly. Big game of the weekend, Jack. Chelsea-Arsenal. What do you think will happen? Arsenal are rubbish at Stamford Bridge, aren't they?
4-1 Chelsea. I realise all my predictions are really big scores here.
You always do this. You're always
It's going to be 0-0 now.
Basically, what I'm saying is over the next few games that are going to be coming up, you need to be betting for more than 2.5 goals. That's
normally on these predictions, right? Me and you, when Ben's here, we do a bit of a good cop, bad cop thing. I'll be like sort of the 1-0, 2-0s. I'll be sort of hedge my bets. You'll go all out. Ben will be somewhere in the middle with Proudy, and it sort of works out. But we're missing that sort of counterbalance. I actually happen to agree with you on this one. I think there'll be more pressure on Arsene Wenger. We've not mentioned Arsenal once.
I know, it's been a miracle, actually. Arsenal fans are going to be relieved.
We've spent, they will be, because we've spent so much of the last sort of 6 weeks talking about Arsenal. Not mentioned them once today, but you've got your mention. I think you'll lose 5-1.
How kind of you.
So that's it. Proudy?
I think 3-0 Chelsea. So it's going to be a walkover once again.
So, okay, we were all sort of siding on that one. We mentioned Man United Everton in the middle of the show. Jack?
2-1 Everton.
Really?
Ooh.
Oh, I'm being bad cop now. So
okay, well, I'll be good cop, and I'll back Jose Mourinho to sort of turn around the point that they got at Stoke. I think Koeman has struggled in those sort of matches against the top six, particularly away from home. The one that springs to mind with Everton last year was the Chelsea game, where he got his tactics totally wrong. And by the time he tried to change them after half an hour, I think they were already 2 or 3-0 down. I can see him doing that again at Man United, and I think it won't be a happy return for Wayne Rooney. 2-0 Man United. Proudy?
I'm going to sit on the fence on this one and say 4-4. No, I'm
2-0
Man United.
I can't believe this. What?
2-0 Man United, I think. Like it'll be a struggle. I think Man United will struggle to break down Everton. They probably get late goals through, like Martial will come off the bench again, and then that would be
maybe they'll have Fellaini back to throw on.
Yeah, long ball into the box, he flicks it in
to bully his old team. Right, 3 rapid fire ones. I want scores only. Jack, Newcastle Stoke, go.
0-4. No, 0-2. 0-2.
0-2. So 2-0 to Stoke at St James's. Proudy, go.
2-1 Newcastle.
I think Stoke will win this. We bigged up Stoke 1-0 to Stoke.
Huddersfield Leicester next. I'll go with the former Premier League champions winning this one 3-1.
Oh, a turn up for the form books. I think Huddersfield will beat Leicester 1-0. Not much going on.
1-1. 1-1 written all over it.
I think this will be an even game, actually, to be fair. I think that'll be fun. West Brom, West Ham. Maybe this could be Bilic's last game in charge. Jack, do you think Pulis will be the one to wield the knife?
1-1.
1-1?
Yeah, the knife will go half in, but it won't be lethal.
That's a Tony Pulis kind of thing to do, and he'll smile.
Do you want a live score update, actually, by the way?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
West Ham are 2-0 up against Huddersfield.
Ooh.
So, Obi Aganai.
Rooney scored both the... Oh, never mind.
I'm not going to let that influence my decision at all, because I think West Brom will win this and Bilic will go.
He's gone. Yeah. Despite the fact they're going to win 2-0 against Huddersfield.
1-0 West Brom. No one ever scores any goals at the Hawthorns.
Yeah.
0-0.
Wow.
Just because of that. Chicha won't score again.
Why did we pick... So they are... Why did we pick that game at the end?
I was feeling a bit west.
It's a massive come down.
I was feeling a bit west. You know, the two west sides. It stood out to me.
Okay, fine. Jack picked those, not me.
But
that's the only
those were our predictions.
Well. Yes, they were. And as Jack said at the beginning of this segment, go to predictor.com. That is PREDIKTA.
Use that referral link, though. It's on Twitter.
You can do. Yeah, you can go there and sign up. But the best thing to do would be to click our link, which is on our Twitter in the description below the video, and on our other socials, really. So go check it and get involved. I think you can win a signed Cristiano Ronaldo shirt.
Is that still going on? I hope so. I need to win that.
I mean, do you really? I'm not sure I'd want that. I'll leave it.
Just
to
think of it on eBay.
Yeah, obviously the first thing that you come up with. Let's. I mean, we're running over an hour here. Let's round off the show with a couple of quick viewer questions. I asked for them on Twitter before the show, and while we've answered a lot of them during the show, I'd feel a little bit bad by at least not answering a couple. So Nick SFC asks, "This is I told you to think about this one, so I hope you got a good answer. What player has surprised you the most this season in the Premier League, either in a good or bad way?" Proudy?
You'd come back to me. I'm still trying to think of one. I'm still trying to think of one.
Don't throw it to me. I'm not. No. I'll say Morata. I had some question marks over Morata.
Scored at the weekend.
He's looking good for them.
Looks very good in the air, which it's pretty good. A bit of almost. I feel like Costa was, while he was a very good target man. The stats will probably show me totally wrong on this, but I feel like Morata's looked a bit more of an aerial threat already than Costa did. Those sort of diagonal long balls.
They don't look like they're missing Costa, which I think is the biggest compliment you can give to Morata and Batshuayi when he has played.
Hmm.
I think that's a good one. Proudy, have you thought of one in the 2 minutes and sort of I've given you?
I was going to say Fraser Forster in a bad way. Like I've always said that he's a good goalkeeper, but he's been playing so poorly this season, and it's no surprise that he's out of the England reckoning as well at the moment. Like he's not even getting into the squads. So
yeah, that's true. I think the performance. I mean, without sort of using him as my surprise player, I think Jack Butland's looked really good so far this year, and he's sort of, while he was injured and he was out, I know people.
Sorry, Forster has got 2 clean sheets in his first 4 games of the season.
Yeah, no, but he has been playing poorly still. Have you seen the goals he's conceded?
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like he's conceded 4 this year. Like, it's not like he's conceded a ton.
Yeah, what?
More goals in 4 games.
Do you want my surprise, boys? Do you want my?
Yeah.
Go on.
Do you want my sort of surprise? Sam Vokes, in a good way. He's led. I know Chris Wood's come in as well, and he's got a couple of goals already. Maybe I'll include Chris Wood as well in that. Like the Burnley couple of strikers have looked really good so far this year, and Vokes got a goal at Wembley. And I think a lot of people thought with Andre Gay going, Burnley might look a bit sort of blunted up top, but Vokes has stepped up really well, and Wood has also looked good. So they will be my front 2 of choice.
Can I change my answer then?
No. No, give it.
Okay. Instead of Fraser Forster, I'll go Choupo-Moting. I think he's been a good player this year so far. He surprised me. He only got 3 goals for Schalke last year, and he's already nearly equalled that total this season. So
he has.
Yeah.
Proudy, thoughts on Pompey's win against Wimbledon?
World-class win. We're going to win the league.
He didn't go to the
That's
game.
the lower league talk for the fans for September. Hopefully you enjoy. We'll be back in October.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jack, if you're not on the podcast like next week, it'll just be me and Keno talking about Championship.
We will. You know, right, listeners. If that ever does happen, if Jack and Ben both can't make it, and we're like, we probably won't do a show tonight, I promise you on air that me and Proudy will do a dedicated Football League special.
I'm getting ill. I want to see the show.
So, I was going to say, so if anyone wants to sort of come up with more reasons why Jack and Ben can't attend because you want to see a Football League show, do that. I think we'll leave it at that, actually, for the questions. I know I asked for quite a few, but we've answered most of them in the show. So should we wrap it up, gents? We've got a good bumper show here.
We shall.
Thanks very much for listening to For the Fans this week. I know, obviously, without Ben, I've had to step in. How did I do, boys? Was I all right? I know I've done this before.
Bit of a bingo cooler vibe, I feel like, to you. A little bit like hosting events at a village hall, kind of tombola cooler.
I when you did the Predictor intro and you were like, guys, check out Predictor, I was like, have I been doing this wrong? Maybe
you got to do YouTube, Keno.
Little bit.
Yeah,
bingo
that's
cool.
the key. Jack knows how to call out sort of promoted.
Hey, if I did bingo calls,
maybe that's your career, Jack.
Right,
maybe
I'm going to go look for some vacancies while we wrap up the show.
Yeah, I will wrap up the show. Go and check forthefanshow.com for all the necessary links that you need to follow us. Follow us on Twitter. Leave a review on iTunes because that is really useful for us in the charts. If you don't listen on iTunes, go and check it out. You can get everything on your mobile device and listen to us while walking around and going about your life. Leave a review while you're at it. Obviously, we're on YouTube. A lot of people, the numbers have been really good on YouTube, Jack, recently. So maybe people are kind of preferring in video form. I know people like the cams on the live show last week. So maybe...
sick. Gala Bingo Crawley got Deputy General Manager vacancy. Maybe I'll go for that.
I can't believe he's actually doing it. Right, that'll do for the show. Proudy, say goodbye while Jack looks at bingo jobs.
I'll see you next week.
Jack, will you be here next week? Or are you going to take this job?
Gala Bingo called me. Not sponsored by Gala Bingo yet.
Jack, you told me you've got an interview tomorrow. I didn't know it was about that.
It's exposed.
Right, that'll do from us at ForTheFans. Get well soon, Ben. He'll be back, if not next week, definitely the week after, and we'll see you next week, guys.